Good morning. It's Thursday. It's SJU, and we're talking Rob Thomas's Smooth. I'm Joe Starr. This is Dan Murrell. Danielle Radford is here.
Hi, good morning.
And the smoothest of them all, Spencer J. Gilbert.
Just like the ocean under the moon, Joe. How are you doing?
I think you're forgetting a key component. Featuring Santana. Hello.
True.
Yeah,
Very true.
It was his album.
Yeah. No, it was. But just the sultry voice of Rob Thomas was just the...
Love my Rob Box 20.
Is there a more important voice in 1990s American culture than the lead singer of Matchbox 20?
I would hope so.
Guys, we're talking, what are we talking about today? I just sat down. We're talking a new Bond director was announced. We're talking a little bit of Jordan Peele. No key today. And biggest of all, Bob Iger sat down with THR, which is weird to me that the CEO of Disney was like, sure, let's gab. I don't need to do that, but why not? I'm a human man. So let's just jump into that. Story number one, Bob Iger's revealing interview with THR via THR, hitherto known as Thur. Disney CEO Bob Iger did a sit-down interview with THR, with Thur, about many things, including the fallout after the release of Solo, a Star Wars story, James Gunn, and the MCU incorporating Fox's Marvel properties. So, well, let's jump into these one section at a time. First, he got into a little bit about Solo and how quickly it came after Last Jedi and how that probably affected its box office performance. I made the timing decision, and as I look back, I think the mistake that I take the blame, was too little, too much, too fast. You can expect some slowdown, but that doesn't mean we're not going to make films. J.J. Abrams is busy making Episode 9. We have creative entities, including Game of Thrones directors David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, who are developing sagas of their own, which we haven't been specific about yet. And we are just at the point where we're going to start making decisions about what comes next after JJ's. But I think we're going to be a little more careful about volume and timing, and the buck stops here on that. And in my heart, he did two thumbs and pointed at this guy. So yeah, we've hit on Solo coming way on the heels of Last Jedi before. Mm-hmm. Is there some credence to what he's saying about too much Star Wars, Dan?
Yeah. Isn't that what everyone was saying before Solo came out? This is hilarious. He's like, it might have been too much too soon. It's like, I know. I think that's what everyone was trying to tell you before the movie came out. Yeah, there's definitely some credence to it. I think he took a gamble that there were people would be on such a high from The Last Jedi still, that Solo would just sort of coast into theaters and crest that wave of what they had hoped would be like a Force Awakens amount of goodwill. It didn't turn out that way.
Right.
And then the movie wasn't.
Great.
Well, I don't want to impose my thoughts on the movie. I will say that no matter what you think, I don't think a lot of people thought the movie was incredible. Mm-hmm. Is what I'll say. I think even the people that liked the movie, not a lot of them were like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
So that also did not help.
Well, Dan sort of brought up goodwill. Do you guys think that, even a franchise like Marvel, which has tons of goodwill, every film, could they pull off a release schedule like that every 2 months or even every month? Or does Marvel burn through goodwill a lot quicker with a release schedule that aggressive?
Oh, that's a really interesting question, because sometimes it does feel like it's every other month with Marvel movies. It just depends on the year. This has obviously been a big year for Marvel stuff, especially like in the summer and earlier in the year. And now it's kind of slowed down. I think that there is a difference between when you have a big universe, but you're seeing different parts of the universe, than when you have a big universe and you're going back in the past and jumping between times in the universe. And something like a Solo, which I finally got to see the whole thing of since the film broke the first time I went to go see it, which was good and like charming, but it does have to overcome that it is a prequel, that it is kind of futzing around with Han Solo's history. And I think if a Marvel has an aggressive release schedule like that, and one of them is, well, what was Shuri doing in school? Like, what did she study? We would all be like, oh, no.
Yeah.
I don't know if I need to see the Shuri in school movie.
How did Black Panther wear gloves for the first time?
Right. We'll call him a Black Panther. Like, I don't know if that's...
I guess that's redundant, right? Are there white panthers in nature?
That's fair.
I don't think so. The comments will tell us.
Yeah, the comments will absolutely tell us.
To be fair, this year they did pull off a 3-month release schedule. February, April, July.
Yeah.
And to pretty much success, I think, critically, box office-wise. Ant-Man and the Wasp didn't set things on fire. But
it did well.
It did okay.
Is there... do you guys think there's a difference with the movie-going audience between a franchise like Marvel, which is every 3 months, yeah, but they're continuing to push a narrative forward, versus Star Wars, which seems to bounce around a lot? Is that...
I would say the opposite. I feel like Marvel does bounce around a lot more than Star Wars does. I mean, Marvel, yeah, we're building up to the next big Avengers cataclysm, but that really means, at its best, it's a throwaway line of dialogue, it's a scene, it's a tag here and there. Solo is telling the same story that was told in The Force Awakens, that was told in the original trilogy, the same family with the same 2 last names. Like, I think that they've picked the bones so clean of the original trilogy that we don't need one of those every year. I think if they told a completely different Star Wars story, unlike Rogue One, unlike Solo, because it is a whole galaxy full of stories to tell, if this had been Benioff and Weiss's completely new saga going off somewhere else in the universe, there would have been a lot more interest and just a lot more discussion around it than, once again, something you didn't know filling in a gap in the first 3 movies.
Right.
Yeah, we don't want to see the movie where Tony meets Pepper Potts. It's fine. We know they know each other.
Do you think there's anything to the fact
what did
that
they eat?
he name dropped JJ, he name dropped Benioff and Weiss, but he did not name drop, trigger warning, Rian Johnson, who was announced to have been working on something. He's just like, yeah, JJ's working on something, Benioff and Weiss are working on something.
Didn't he say he's going to do something first before he goes back to Star Wars? Do you need to pick up some project?
Well, but he supposedly had this whole other trilogy in development. Like there was 3 things that they announced that they were definitely working on, which was Episode 9, Benioff and Weiss, and Rian Johnson's trilogy.
Right.
And now in this interview, we're working on Episode 9, Benioff and Weiss. Maybe some other things,
Well,
and we'll tell you them more later.
I mean,
it's just, I don't know.
He referred to, multiple creative entities, incling Benioff and Weiss.
It's speculation. I just wonder if there might be something to the fact that he specifically did not name drop, that they
could be.
were. So, Dan, I do feel like there's some magic for you here where, reading between the lines, you can see the Dan Murrell philosophy of you can always not make a movie until it's actually ready to be made and done.
I mean, that's one philosophy.
Yeah. I mean, does that make you... Because I feel like Rogue One and Solo both suffered from that in a variety of ways. Is that a...
Yeah, Rogue One, I felt suffered just from I can't imagine the headache of getting that movie done. But it wasn't as ambitiously overhauled as Solo was. I think that there were certainly a lot of things done over, but it wasn't like reshooting half or more of the movie. I'm still surprised that they stuck to the date with Solo. Honestly, I mean, I know you can't push it to Christmas because you got Mary Poppins and you're Disney and you've got Synergy and everything's planned. But at the same time, it's like even September, November, it's just weird to me that they stuck to their guns on that one and didn't. I know that you take a hit, but at the same time, I think there are elements to that movie that obviously weren't quite ready.
Yeah, well, I mean, you fall big and you learn a big lesson, I guess, finally.
I guess, yeah.
Rattled enough trees. Overall, big question, is there, even with this sort of, not scaling back, but strategic slowing down that they're giving us, sorry, the MRI machine upstairs is in my head. The big question, is there too much Star Wars, even with sort of the, hey, we're going to pull it back a little bit? Too much Star Wars?
There's just too many Star Wars movies. I mean, Star Wars has always been able to support video games, comics, novelizations, cartoons, TV animated series, infinite appetite for that. But Star Wars movies, they used to be an event. You used to line up outside the
In my
theater.
day, sure.
And I do think that they should go back to just reserving the theatrical Star Wars canon movies as just really big kind of generational events. Maybe not generational, maybe every 3 years, every 5 years, something like that, instead of a Fast and the Furious annual schedule.
Yeah, in the meantime, I collect every Krennic action figure in between.
There's plenty of ways to spend your Star Wars bucks.
Absolutely. And I wish that was
actual
a real thing.
Legal currency.
Actual legal currency. Star Wars credits.
Yeah.
Iger also touched on firing Roseanne and James Gunn. I would say, this is a quote from Mr. Iger, I would say there is a blend of my helping to make the decision to my supporting the decisions that have been made. I'm going to read that sentence again.
Yeah, that's a sentence.
Because I love this whole interview. Like, this is... If you've ever wanted to be the CEO of a thing,
read
read this, and this is how you're supposed to talk at all times when you're a CEO. I would say there is a blend of my helping to make the decision to my supporting the decisions that have been made. Well said, Bob Iger.
I have all and yet none of the responsibility at the same time. He's
I
like,
did the things you like.
I
didn't do the things
Schrodinger's
you didn't
CEO.
like.
Depending on when you look at him, it's frozen in place.
I was very supportive of the other people who the buck I shall pass on to, who made the choices that you may have opinions about.
Look, sometimes there's a thing and people are involved in the thing, and like I'm around the thing, and then the thing happens, and then it was a thing, you know?
That's so good. Roseanne was complete. Back to the quote. Roseanne was completely unanimous. We discussed how it would be communicated and when, because there were a number of entities that had to be properly filled in, but the decision was completely unanimous. The James Gunn decision was brought to me. I love this one. The James Gunn decision was brought to me as a unanimous decision of a variety of executives at the studio, and I supported it. I haven't second-guessed their decision.
So he doesn't agree. Well, no, he has.
No, he agrees.
So then it's unanimous.
But his hands are clean.
How is it less unanimous than the other one?
I think what he's saying is I made a decision with Roseanne, and I supported a decision with James Gunn.
Okay.
Which is,
all right.
You know, like you say, that's how CEOs, that's how they do.
That's how they talk. That's how these CEOs talk. CEO speak continues. Again, read this interview just for the masterful just CEO poetry. The corporate speak is fantastic. Now we know where Feige learned it. On Feige also taking charge of the X-Men franchise, I think it only makes sense. I want to be careful here because of what's been communicated to the Fox folks, but I think they know. It only makes sense. Oh, there's somebody who opened THR today at the Fox office and went, oh, God.
They've been doing that for
Kimberly, we're moving back home. It only makes sense for Marvel to be supervised by one entity. There shouldn't be two Marvels, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you couldn't read the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're probably the Fox guy that worked on Wolverine Origins.
Yeah, exactly.
No! I think if nothing else, this sentence says that the Band-Aid hasn't necessarily been fully applied over at Fox in terms of who's going.
They got movies
and what's
coming
coming
out.
No, it's like on Cheaters when they
Great reference. Richard
Great
Greco.
reference.
Yeah, when it's
Stabbed in the line of duty.
and almost rest in peace, Richard Gecko. But so there's that moment where like the woman comes upon the cheater and he's like, "You knew this has been over for months. Why is this camera crew here?" And that's kind of how this Fox thing goes. It's like they knew.
And then the Wolverine Origins guy stabs Richard Greco.
Yeah. Never corner someone on their boat. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
lesson
There's
learned.
Because
no
of the
address.
implications.
Yeah.
If you guys don't get anything else out of today's video, it's this. Never corner someone on their boat.
Yeah.
Whether
Or
it's
if you're looking to corner someone, try a boat.
any kind of boat.
Anything.
Canoe,
Yeah.
yacht, fan boat.
And if you're looking for an early 2000s reality series to maybe go back into, Cheaters was
One
in
of
the
them.
lawless days when reality shows had even fewer scruples than they do today.
It's hard to believe, folks,
Yeah.
but it was true.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah, cheaters. Wow.
hell of a show.
I'm sorry I did that to us.
No. Thank
be
you. The show had gone way too straightforward so far, and I was starting to get worried. On if Deadpool will be an Avenger, Bob Iger said, Kevin's got a lot of ideas. I'm not suggesting that's one of them. But who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no. Deadpool's not going to be an Avenger.
He could do a cameo.
He could do a cameo,
Yeah.
maybe, but
Until he
Deadpool's
is.
Deadpool's his thing.
Until
Let Deadpool
he's
do
not.
his thing. Yeah, I know, but I don't think they're that synergy reliant, and that they're just Deadpool's at everything now. God, I hope not.
Oh man.
Well, I mean,
it's a great way to ruin Deadpool.
It is a wonderful way to overexpose and ruin Deadpool.
I mean, they sure did it in the comics. Like, Deadpool took off, and all of a sudden, everything was Deadpool in the comics.
Thank you, Joseph Kelly. No, but seriously, thank you. You're a great writer.
Yeah, you're a great writer, and thank you for your contributions to pop culture. On breaking the no booze in Disneyland rule for Star Wars
Finally,
Land.
the real news.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Bearing the lead.
I'm a big believer in tradition. This just seemed like one of those traditions that if we changed it, the Empire wasn't going to crumble.
See what he did?
Called himself the Empire.
Yep.
Is Bob Iger going to be cleaning the puke out of the Dumbo elephants?
Absolutely not.
Is Bob Iger going to clean my shirt when somebody tosses their cookies on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad because they got the spins and they didn't limit their alcohol intake properly?
Specifically for Star Wars Land.
I know.
But you can leave Star Wars Land drunk.
I know it's for Star Wars Land.
They don't put you in a.
Do you go through a de-alcoholization process when you leave Star Wars?
Yeah, they
Land?
don't. After you've had 4 shots, they don't sit you in a Bacta tank. No.
I love that this is the only thing that he was the most sure of was booze. And
No, absolutely.
I want to
booze.
know what he ordered, because with women, they'll always be like, she ordered a this and a that, but I imagine his order took like 20 minutes while he was trying to figure out what the most friendly thing would be to order at this restaurant that they're sitting at.
Yes.
The puff piece where they're like, he ordered a
Club
chicken
sandwich and a
Caesar.
seltzer water.
I don't not like
Seltzer water.
sandwiches, and I don't have anything against bread, and I understand that some people have allergies to nuts. I don't know that I have an allergy to nuts, but I know that some people have allergies to nuts. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being vegan or with really liking protein. Like, I just imagine this was one really long order.
Yes.
And then to the waitress, excuse me, do you have paper straws?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So save the environment.
But yeah, to answer your question, no, he will not be. He will be the guy in the throne saying, "Lord Vader, send a sanitation team to blah 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 blah.
Dispatch the mop team.
Real ultimate."
Wait, I always
the
thought there was that
Caribbean.
place behind the Dole Whip that you could drink in Disneyland.
But that's
It's
in
California
California Adventure.
Adventure.
oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Is it?
Which is not.
We got to call an expert.
Disneyland, even though it
Mike
is.
Carlson, get him on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to. Mike Carlson, let us know on Twitter. Is California Adventure Disney? I mean, it is, right?
And where are the
It
best
is.
places to puke in the park? Because I feel like if anyone would know,
There's
Small
definitely a
world.
map.
I mean, any water ride. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say
lean over
off
the
the,
boat.
side of the log flume, right as you're going over
Splash
Splash
Mountain.
Mountain. No one's going to notice.
Except the photo.
Yeah.
You have to time it really well. You don't want to be caught on camera doing it.
No. Best nap is the Tiki Room, where you watch that weird 45-minute bird show.
Where I thought you could drink. Am I crazy or did I just like get?
No, that's the
Hands
Tiki
in
Thinking of
bar.
a tiki bar.
Yeah.
That's in California Adventure,
Okay.
or is it in Downtown Disney? I can't remember.
boy.
But then there's
It's
the
in
Tiki
California
Room,
Adventure.
which is you just sit in a room and old animatronic birds sing to you
Yeah,
forever.
very relaxing.
Yeah, and you just you pass out. That's a nice nap. That's a
there you
real
go.
nice nap.
Good to know.
So yeah, guys, there you go. So many non-answers from Bob Iger. I'm encouraged by the Star Wars strategy.
Yeah.
Because that's something, like you said, Spencer, that needs to feel special and not just like factory cranked out.
What's this month's Star Wars?
Yeah, exactly. I don't want that. I want time to be able to sit with them a little bit. Moving on. New Bond director announced. Eon Productions and MGM have set Cary Fukunaga as the new director who will mount James Bond. Poor choice of words.
Yeah,
Deadline. Who will mount James Bond 25 with Daniel Craig in the
different.
starring role. Filming will begin in March for a worldwide release date of February 14th, 2020.
Ooh, Valentine's Day.
So the producers, Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, who herself, I think, is the name of a Bond book character. And the studio met numerous helmers after Danny Boyle dropped out over creative differences. This after they sparked to the filmmaker's concept and hired his train-spotting screenwriter John Hodge to write it. So sources say it's a big creative swing, and they mutually decided it would be better to go back to the project they plan to make with 007 scribes Purvis and Wade, who are the recent standard 007 scribes. Fukunaga, of course, directed Beasts of No Nation and the first season of True Detective. Good for Bond, bad for Bond? Spencer? I like your Bond takes.
It's going to be a lighthearted Roger Moore-ish romp.
Oh, yeah.
But the exact opposite. This is going to be, I think, probably a fitting send-off for everything we know about, Daniel Craig's Bond to this point. I think pairing him with the guy who made True Detective seems like a good way for him to just grimace off into the sunset.
Yeah.
After choking somebody with a steel wire necktie. I think it's a good fit. I think if you're either on or off on gritty Bond at this point, and this is like gritty, extra nutty peanut butter and extra gritty pectin jam. A lot of grit.
I would add to that. Grit, yeah, but I think Fukunaga also, he can offset that with a very pretty picture to look at. Like, Beasts of No Nations is heavy, but it's a beautiful, beautiful movie to look at, which almost makes it not palatable, but they balance each other very well.
I have a Bond pitch that I think a lot of Bond fans would call blasphemous.
Let's hear it.
If you look at, this is going to be Daniel Craig's last James Bond movie. By the time this comes out, believe it or not, he will have been Bond for 14 years. It doesn't seem like that long because this will only be his 5th movie, but he's in for 14 years. If you look at Casino Royale, one of the things I loved about that movie was just how brutal it was, in the sense of just like that bathroom fight was such a great way to introduce the audience to this James Bond. And with Cary Fukunaga, who I love what he did in True Detective. I'm a big fan of his work, his style. I think, and I know that they say this is, you break the rules. I know that James Bond is built on tradition, but looking at the arc of this Bond, which has been dark and kind of very not happy. He does not have moments of happiness. There's not a lot of levity. This has been very much about vendettas and revenge. I think this Bond movie should be the one where they go R-rated. I think you bookend Casino Royale with, you see the beginnings of this brutal James Bond, and I want to see the end of this brutal James Bond. You have a director who can do it. You've seen that franchises can go R and still retain their audience. You saw that with Logan. I think this should be the Bond movie where they commit to the tone of this character and stop being wishy-washy. That was the problem with Spectre, was that they were trying to do the old Bond and trying to do the new Bond and trying to mix them together, and they didn't work well. And it just seemed like a mishmash. Like, send them out right and actually commit to this character's arc and go all the way with it. As a Bond fan, I think more than tradition, what I want is something different. And this is what that James Bond is. Stop trying to drag him back. At the end of Skyfall, I was kind of like, oh, wow, they're going back to the sort of traditional way of doing it. Like, I'm kind of excited by that. But seeing how that was executed, I don't think that was the right way to go. And I would love to see them just commit to how they started with this Bond and really give Daniel Craig a great movie to go out on.
Do you kill him?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. That's. Are you doing another one? Are you going to do more? I would assume so, but maybe you're not. Maybe you don't. Who knows?
Dan brought up Spectre. If this is going to be Daniel Craig's exit, do you bother trying to pick up any of those weird overarching Spectre threads, or do you just let this be its own thing?
I hope not, because they really expected us to remember what happened in Quantum of Solace, and that's just never going to happen.
I did not.
I think I said at the end of Spectre they were going back. At the end of Skyfall, they said they were going to go back to the old classic ways. And that's what
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
I might have misspoken.
I heard you. I think that there has been an attempt at an arc and real plot continuity from throughout Daniel Craig's Bonds, and I think it's more character continuity that we're looking for. Like, they did make that head fake towards, like, it's like GoldenEye now. Like, he's shooting people at evil bases, and they're petting cats, and laser beams are going off again. But, like, that was such a small fraction of what he's done to this point that we can let's go back to the roots.
And we shall, with our goodbye to Bond. Kill him, don't kill him. Do something a little different. Go hard R. I like that pitch.
I like that pitch.
I like no lasers.
Yeah.
Or just have him do like a Doctor Who regeneration, and then it's Idris Elba. It's just like plot twist.
I always like lasers, and I
Spencer,
like that.
what are your 5 favorite things about Doctor Who?
I'm almost finished. It's almost over. I'm almost done. It's not terrible, but there's so much of it.
Guys, Jordan Peele is going to host the new Twilight Zone. This is via Deadline. Jordan Peele is set as host and narrator of the Twilight Zone reboot on CBS All Access. He says, Rod Serling was an uncompromising visionary who not only shed light on social issues of his time, but prophesied issues of ours, said Peele, who also serves as executive producer. I'm honored to carry on his legacy to a new generation of audiences as the gatekeeper of the Twilight Zone. It's set to begin production this fall and is slated to premiere on CBS All Access in 2019. Discovery didn't necessarily do it for you. Dan, guys, is this the one that makes you subscribe to CBS All Access to check out?
Yes. Well, and I did watch all of Discovery. I'm like, there are some of us. We are many. But yeah, no, like as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh man, now I have to subscribe to CBS All Access again.
I have to do more things.
I have to renew my subscription. And they showed that beginning with him talking and doing the classic Twilight Zone intro, and it just I got shivers in my brain and down my spine. I am so incredibly excited for this.
Are you a fan of the classic series?
Yes.
What are the stakes? So I'm not very familiar with Twilight Zone at all. If there were 3 Like, what are the Twilight Zones people should check out?
I mean, there's so many of them.
I mean, I guess the three. There's like, and I won't say episode names because no one's gonna. But
Right.
there's.
But the one where
I broke my glasses.
I broke my
Time Enough at
glasses.
Last with Burgess Meredith, where he breaks his glasses. And,
Okay.
yeah.
The
Oh,
thing
no,
on the wing.
Yeah, the thing on the wing. Pig-faced people. Oh no, that's weird. Oh no, that's normal.
Wait, keep summarizing. Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah, no, so there's a lot of amazing super. I love whenever they do the Twilight Zone marathons. I'm like zoned in on those,
Nice.
so I'm very excited for this.
There's one where there's a guy and he's like, like it keeps getting hotter. And like, outside the temperature keeps getting warmer and warmer and warmer, and like it's really effective visual. Toward the end, it's getting so hot that like the glass in his apartment is melting, and then you realize that he's actually unconscious and he's dying of a high fever, and it's like his body's psychosomatic reaction is to create this fantasy world where it's really
Yeah, dude.
messed up.
That's
like,
Twilight
it is
Zone.
so messed up for being on the air in the '60s. Like
Okay.
they did some messed up stuff.
It's
on that
Black
show.
Mirror if they didn't rely on like, but the evil is your phone.
Yeah.
Like,
Did you know that you're in the computer?
Yeah.
Did you know? I am excited about this reboot because even though I missed the boat on original Twilight Zone, although it was fun to realize I know every episode you guys just referenced except for that crazy shit because of Animaniacs.
yeah.
I was gonna say thanks Simpsons.
Yeah, thanks,
Treehouse
Simpsons.
of Horror.
Ventura 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's someone on the
I
wing.
know them. There's something out there. But yeah, horror for me, I got sort of back into with the first season of True Detective, which leaned a little bit that way with The King in Yellow and stuff like that, and then watching Black Mirror and now watching Castle Rock. So I'm kind of getting into these little spookly weeklies.
There's also another great episode of the Twilight Zone. Spookly Weeklies. I like it.
Weeklies.
There's another great episode of the Twilight Zone where this
Talking.
guy goes with his girlfriend to meet their parents, but it turns out they're transplanting brains. Oh, wait, that's Get Out, because it was like the best Twilight Zone movie ever. Like,
Basically,
Get Out
yeah.
was such a great
It was
Twilight
such a
Zone
great
story.
Twilight Zone
That's why
movie.
it makes so much sense to have Jordan Peele doing this, because it's like, yeah, you made
Yeah.
an incredible episode, a feature-length episode of the Twilight Zone.
I also there's something about Jordan Peele's career that I love where it's like, yeah, I'm this really critically acclaimed sketch comedian and I am doing it so that I can eventually be the king of all spooky things. Like that's what I would like to be doing.
You know, there is a weird Venn diagram between comics and horror, spooky stuff.
yeah.
I don't know what that is. We got a darkness, Joe.
Yeah, we're all broken,
There's
Danielle.
a darkness inside us.
We're all broken. There's a darkness inside us. Is there a darkness inside of you? Let us know in the comments. Guys, that's our show. You guys feel good? I feel good. Make sure to check out Movie Fights today, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Stacey Howard versus Greg Alba, who was responsible for the first sweep in Movie Fights history. Which
That's true.
is that
Clean
true?
sweep.
Yeah.
Clean sweep.
Great fighter versus the returning Sasha Proraver. That's going to be a good one. Let us know what you think about Iger thoughts. Let us know about what you think about the Bond director and Jordan Peele's new news with Twilight Zone in the comments. And leave us some fan questions in the comments today, and we will get to them tomorrow for Fan Friday, which I understand has a great new theme song. We'll see you guys then.
It does.
Bye.